Have you ever felt that English is trapped inside your mind? You understand videos. You understand movies. You understand podcasts. You understand social media posts. You understand YouTube content. You understand much more than you did a year ago. But when it's time to speak, everything changes. Suddenly, your confidence disappears. Your heart starts beating faster. Your mind becomes crowded with questions. Is this sentence correct? Should I use the past tense? What if I make a mistake? What if they don't understand me? And before you say a single word, you stop yourself. You stay silent, and another opportunity disappears. If this has happened to you, I want you to know something. You are not alone. Millions of English learners around the world feel exactly the same way, every single day. And for a long time, I thought the problem was vocabulary. I thought I needed more words. Then I thought the problem was grammar. I thought I needed more rules. Then I thought the problem was pronunciation. I thought I needed a better accent. But eventually, I discovered something surprising. The real problem wasn't English. The real problem was fear. Fear of making mistakes. Fear of sounding stupid. Fear of being judged. Fear of not being perfect. And that fear was stronger than any grammar book, stronger than any vocabulary list, stronger than any English course. Because fear has a special ability. It convinces you that you're not ready. Even when you are, it convinces you that you need one more lesson, one more course, one more book, one more year. But the truth is, most learners don't have a knowledge problem. They have a confidence problem. And confidence doesn't come from studying. Confidence comes from doing. Think about learning how to ride a bicycle. You can watch videos about bicycles, read books about bicycles, listen to experts talk about bicycles. But none of that will teach you how to ride. At some point, you must get on the bicycle. You must lose balance. You must fall. You must try again. And eventually, you learn. English works the same way. You cannot become a confident speaker by preparing forever. You become confident by speaking. Not tomorrow, not next month. Today, right now. Because every day you delay speaking is another day your ear becomes stronger, and fear grows in silence. The longer you wait, the bigger it becomes. The bigger it becomes, the harder speaking feels. And many learners become trapped in this cycle. A cycle of preparation without action, learning without speaking, watching without practicing, dreaming without doing. Years pass, but nothing changes. Not because they can't improve, but because they never gave themselves permission to begin. The funny thing is this: most people think fluent speakers never feel nervous. That's not true. Fluent speakers feel nervous too. The difference is simple. They speak anyway. They don't wait for confidence. They create confidence through action. That's what makes them different. And that's what can make you different too. Imagine two people. Both start learning English today. The first person studies for 2 hours every day. Grammar, vocabulary, exercises, rules, but never speaks. The second person studies for 30 minutes, then spends 10 minutes speaking, making mistakes, trying, practicing. Who do you think will improve faster? The answer is obvious. Because language is not information. Language is a skill, and skills are built through repetition. Not perfection, repetition. The reason children learn languages so quickly isn't because they're smarter. It's because they're fearless. A child can make the same mistake 50 times and still keep talking. Adults make one mistake and want to quit. Children focus on communication. Adults focus on perfection. And perfection is the enemy of progress. The moment you accept that mistakes are part of learning, everything changes. Suddenly, mistakes stop being failures. They become teachers. Every mistake teaches you something. Every awkward sentence teaches you something. Every uncomfortable conversation teaches you something. And every time you survive one of those moments, you become stronger, you become better, you become more confident, but only if you keep going. That's the secret. Keep going. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. Because one day, all those small efforts will begin to connect. One day, you'll notice that you understood an entire video. One day, you'll answer a question without translating. One day, you'll have a conversation that feels natural. One day, you'll realize that English is no longer something you study. It's something you use. And that day changes everything. Because English is bigger than a language. English can connect you with people from around the world. English can open doors to new careers, new opportunities, new friendships, new experiences. English can change your future, but only if you stop treating it like a school subject and start treating it like a real skill. A skill that grows every time you use it. Imagine yourself 1 year from now, not tomorrow, not next week. 1 year from now. Imagine that version of yourself. Imagine speaking comfortably. Imagine understanding conversations naturally. Imagine watching content without subtitles. Imagine expressing your ideas clearly. Imagine feeling proud of your progress. Now ask yourself one question. What separates you from that future version of yourself? The answer is not talent. The answer is not intelligence. The answer is not luck. The answer is consistency. The small choices you make every day. The decision to practice when you don't feel like it. The decision to speak when you're nervous. The decision to continue when progress feels slow. That's where transformation happens. Not in one big moment, but in hundreds of small moments. Moments that nobody sees. Moments that nobody applauds. Moments when you choose growth over comfort. And eventually, those moments create a completely different person. A person who no longer says, "I wish I could speak English." Because now they can. A person who no longer says, "I'm afraid." Because now they act despite fear. A person who no longer waits for permission. Because they finally understand something powerful. The perfect moment never comes. You create it. You create it by starting. You create it by trying. You create it by speaking. So if you're listening to this right now, make a promise to yourself. Not a promise to become fluent tomorrow. Not a promise to be perfect. A simple promise. A promise to keep going. A promise to practice. A promise to speak. Even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it's difficult. Even when it's messy. Because every fluent English speaker once stood exactly where you are today. Confused, nervous, uncertain. And the only reason they succeeded is because they refused to quit. They kept showing up. They kept practicing. They kept speaking. Again and again and again. Until one day, they became the person they once dreamed of becoming. And so can you. Because your future is not built in a single day. It's built in the decisions you make today. So stop translating. Stop overthinking. Stop waiting. Stop doubting yourself. The world doesn't need your perfect English. The world needs your voice. And your voice becomes stronger every time you use it. So speak. Speak badly. Speak slowly. Speak imperfectly. But speak. Because every sentence you speak today is an investment in the person you will become tomorrow. And one day, you'll look back at this moment. You'll remember the fear. You'll remember the doubt. You'll remember the frustration. And you'll smile. Because you'll realize something beautiful. You were capable all along. You just needed to believe it. Don't translate. Don't wait. Don't quit. Just speak. Chapter 2. The Prison of Translation. Let me tell you a story. Not about English, not about grammar, not about vocabulary. A story about a prison. A prison that millions of people enter every day without realizing it. The strange thing is, this prison has no walls, no guards, no locked doors. And yet, people stay trapped inside for years. The name of that prison is translation. Every time you want to say something in English, you stop. You think in your native language first, you build the sentence, you search for the words, you check the grammar, you translate everything. Then you finally speak. Maybe. And because this process takes so much energy, you become exhausted. You become frustrated. You begin to believe that speaking English is difficult. But here's the truth. Speaking English isn't difficult. Translating every thought is difficult. Imagine trying to run while carrying a heavy backpack. Could you do it? Of course, but it would be slow, exhausting, uncomfortable. Now imagine removing the backpack. Suddenly, everything becomes easier. That's exactly what happens when you stop translating. For years, your brain has been carrying unnecessary weight. Every sentence becomes a project. Every conversation becomes a challenge. Every interaction becomes a test. And eventually, you start avoiding situations where you need to speak. Not because you don't want to speak, but because speaking feels stressful. The problem is that your brain was never designed to translate languages all day long. When native speakers talk, they don't translate. When children learn a language, they don't translate. When fluent bilingual people communicate, they don't translate. They simply connect ideas directly to words. And that's exactly what you must learn to do. Not tomorrow, today. Think about the word water. When you hear the word water, what happens? Do you see the spelling? Do you analyze grammar? Do you translate? No. You immediately understand the meaning. That's because your brain has created a direct connection. The goal of fluency is simple. Create direct connections. Without translation, without hesitation, without fear. And that happens through exposure, through repetition, through daily use, not through perfection. The biggest mistake learners make is believing they need to understand every word, every sentence, every grammar rule before speaking. But language doesn't work that way. Imagine a baby learning to walk. Would you tell the baby, wait until you fully understand balance before taking a step? Of course not. The baby learns balance by walking. English works the same way. You learn speaking by speaking. Not by preparing forever. The first time you try to think in English, it feels strange, uncomfortable, even impossible. Your brain wants to return to old habits. It wants to translate, because translation feels safe, familiar, comfortable. But growth never happens inside comfort. Growth happens when you challenge yourself, when you try something new, when you accept temporary discomfort for long-term improvement. Every successful English speaker made that decision. Every single one. At some point, they stopped translating everything. At some point, they accepted confusion. At some point, they trusted the process. And that's why they improved. Not because they were gifted, not because they were lucky, but because they were willing to be uncomfortable. For a while. Most people want results immediately, but language learning doesn't reward impatience. Language learning rewards consistency. One day of practice changes nothing. 1 week changes very little. 1 month feels slow. But 6 months, a year, 2 years? That's where the magic happens. The problem is that most people quit before they see results. They plant the seed, then dig it up every week to check if it's growing. Progress doesn't work that way. You must trust what you cannot yet see. You must continue even when improvement feels invisible. Because the truth is, your brain is changing every day. Every podcast you listen to, every video you watch, every sentence you read, every conversation you attempt, your brain is building connections, quietly, patiently, constantly. And one day, those connections become confidence. One day, those connections become fluency. One day, those connections become freedom. The freedom to express yourself. The freedom to communicate. The freedom to connect with people all over the world. And it all starts with a simple decision. A decision to stop translating every thought. A decision to trust yourself. A decision to speak before you feel ready. Because readiness is not something you wait for. Readiness is something you create. One sentence at a time. One conversation at a time. One courageous moment at a time. The prison door has always been open. You never needed permission to leave. You only needed the courage to take the first step. And today, that step begins. Chapter 3, The Day Everything Changed. There was a moment, a very small moment, a moment that looked completely ordinary. No celebration, no dramatic music, no audience, no applause. And yet, it changed everything. Because sometimes the biggest transformations in life don't happen in front of crowds. They happen quietly. Alone, in a small room, on an ordinary day. For years, one English learner followed the same routine. Study grammar, watch videos, learn vocabulary, take notes, repeat, repeat, repeat. And despite all that effort, he still couldn't speak confidently. Whenever someone spoke English to him, he froze. Whenever he wanted to express an idea, he hesitated. Whenever he had the opportunity to practice, fear took control. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't careless. In fact, he worked harder than most people. But hard work alone wasn't enough, because he was focused on preparation, not action. One day, something happened. Nothing extraordinary. No teacher arrived to save him. No secret method appeared. No miracle changed his life. He simply became tired. Tired of waiting. Tired of overthinking. Tired of feeling stuck. And he asked himself a question, a simple question. A question that changed everything. What if I stopped trying to be perfect? At first, the idea felt uncomfortable, because perfection had become part of his identity. He believed perfect grammar would save him. Perfect pronunciation would save him. Perfect vocabulary would save him. But none of those things had solved the real problem. Fear. So he made a decision, a small decision. The kind of decision most people would ignore. He decided to speak English every day. Not for an hour. Not for 30 minutes. Just 5 minutes. 5 minutes of speaking. Every single day. No excuses. No perfection. Just practice. The first day was terrible. He forgot words. He repeated himself. He made grammar mistakes. He felt awkward. But something interesting happened. He survived. Nothing bad happened. Nobody laughed. Nobody judged him. The world didn't end. The second day wasn't much better. Neither was the third, or the fourth, or the fifth. But he kept going. Because for the first time, he wasn't measuring success by perfection. He was measuring success by consistency. And that changed everything. After a few weeks, he noticed something. Speaking felt slightly easier. Not easy, just easier. His brain wasn't translating every word anymore. Some phrases started appearing automatically. Simple phrases. But real phrases. Useful phrases. The kind of phrases that create conversations. Months passed, and something remarkable happened. English stopped feeling like a school subject. It started feeling like a language, a real language. a living language, a language he could actually use. And for the first time in years, he felt progress. Not because he learned more grammar, not because he memorized more vocabulary, but because he finally started using what he already knew. That lesson is powerful. Most people know more English than they think. The problem isn't knowledge. The problem is access. Fear blocks access. Overthinking blocks access. Perfection blocks access. But action removes those barriers. Action unlocks potential. Action creates momentum. Action creates confidence. That's why confidence follows action, not the other way around. Many people wait to feel confident before they start. Successful people start before they feel confident. That's the difference. Think about every achievement in your life. Did confidence come first? Or did confidence appear after practice? The answer is obvious. Confidence is earned, not given. Built, not found. Created, not discovered. And English is no different. The person who speaks every day will eventually become comfortable. The person who waits for confidence may wait forever. That's why today matters. Not tomorrow. Today. Because today is where your future begins. Every fluent speaker has a story. A moment when they decided to stop making excuses. A moment when they decided to stop waiting. A moment when they chose action. This chapter of your life can be that moment. Right now. Not next month, not next year. Right now. Imagine yourself 1 year from today. Imagine speaking naturally. Imagine having conversations without panic. Imagine expressing your ideas without translating. Imagine feeling proud of your progress. That future version of you is not a fantasy. That future version already exists. The only thing separating you from that person is action. Daily action. Consistent action. Small action. That's all. Not talent, not luck, not magic. Action. The day everything changed was not the day he became fluent. It was the day he stopped waiting. Because that was the day growth truly began. And maybe, just maybe, today can be that day for you too. The day you stop waiting. The day you stop doubting. The day you stop translating every thought. The day you finally decide to trust yourself. Because the truth is simple. You're far more capable than you realize, and the life you want is waiting on the other side of action. All you have to do is begin. Chapter 4. The Power of Daily Practice. Let me ask you a question. What do you think is more powerful? Practicing English for 3 hours once a week? Or practicing English for 10 minutes every single day? Most people choose the first option because it sounds impressive. 3 hours feels serious. 3 hours feels productive. 3 hours feels like real work. But language learning doesn't reward intensity. Language learning rewards consistency. And that's a lesson that changes everything. Think about a tree. If you pour 100 liters of water on it today, then give it nothing for the next month, will it grow? Of course not. The tree needs water regularly. A little every day. Your English works exactly the same way. Your brain learns through repetition, not through occasional effort. That's why daily practice is so powerful. Not because it's exciting, not because it's dramatic, but because it works. The problem is that most people underestimate small actions. They believe progress comes from huge efforts, massive sacrifices, extreme routines. But real transformation happens differently. Real transformation happens quietly. One small action repeated thousands of times. Imagine improving just 1% every day. 1% doesn't sound impressive. Most people wouldn't even notice it. But over time, everything changes. 1% today, 1% tomorrow, 1% next week, 1% next month. Eventually, those small improvements become something extraordinary. That's how successful people grow. That's how athletes improve. That's how musicians master their craft. And that's how language learners become fluent. Not through motivation alone, through habits. Because motivation is temporary. Some days you'll feel inspired. Some days you won't. Some days you'll feel confident. Some days you'll doubt yourself. Some days you'll be excited to learn. Some days you'll feel tired. If your progress depends on motivation, you'll never stay consistent. But habits are different. Habits don't ask how you feel. Habits simply happen. That's why building a daily English habit is one of the most important decisions you can make. Imagine waking up every morning and spending just 10 minutes with English. 10 minutes listening, 10 minutes speaking, 10 minutes reading. Not because you're motivated, because it's part of who you are, because it's what you do. Eventually, English stops feeling like work. It becomes part of your lifestyle. And when that happens, improvement becomes inevitable. Let's imagine two people again. The first person studies English only when they feel motivated. The second person studies English every day, even when they're tired, even when they're busy, even when they don't feel like it. Who do you think will improve more over the next year? The answer is obvious. Consistency beats motivation every time. And here's something most learners don't realize. You don't need huge amounts of time. You need focused time. 10 minutes of speaking is better than 1 hour of passive scrolling. 5 minutes of active practice is better than 30 minutes of distraction. The goal is not to spend more time. The goal is to spend better time. Imagine spending 10 minutes every day describing your life in English, your plans, your goals, your challenges, your dreams. At first it feels difficult, then it feels normal, then it feels natural, and eventually it feels automatic. That's how fluency is built. Not through magic, through repetition. One sentence at a time. Most people quit because progress feels invisible. They practice for a week. Nothing changes. They practice for 2 weeks. Still nothing dramatic. A month passes, and they wonder if it's worth it. But here's what they don't understand. Growth is happening beneath the surface, like a seed underground. You don't see it growing, but it's growing. Every day, every hour, every minute. Your brain is creating new connections, strengthening old ones, building patterns, developing skills. And one day, the results finally appear. Suddenly you understand more. Suddenly you speak faster. Suddenly conversations feel easier. Suddenly you're doing things that once felt impossible. And people call it talent. But it wasn't talent. It was consistency. Months of invisible work. Months of showing up. Months of refusing to quit. That's what creates success. Not perfection. Consistency. Not talent. Consistency. Not intelligence. Consistency. Success loves consistency. And fluency does too. The most powerful thing you can do today is simple. Create a routine, a small routine, a realistic routine, not a routine designed for your best day, a routine designed for your worst day. Because anyone can practice when they're motivated. The real challenge is practicing when life gets busy. Can you listen to English for 10 minutes? Can you speak to yourself for 5 minutes? Can you read 1 page? Can you learn 1 new phrase? Of course you can. And if you do that every day, your future changes. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, without question, because consistency always wins. Always. The people who succeed are not always the most talented. They're often the people who simply refuse to stop. They kept going, 1 day at a time, 1 practice session at a time, 1 conversation at a time, until the impossible became normal. And that's exactly what can happen to you. If you keep showing up, if you keep practicing, if you keep believing. Because every day you practice English, you're not just learning a language, you're becoming a different person, a stronger person, a more confident person, a person who keeps promises to themselves, a person who takes action despite fear, a person who continues despite obstacles. And that transformation is bigger than English. It's bigger than vocabulary. It's bigger than grammar. It's about becoming the kind of person who never gives up, the kind of person who keeps moving forward, one day at a time, one sentence at a time, one step at a time, because that's how great things are built, and that's how your future is built too. Chapter 5, Your future self is watching you. You close your eyes for a moment. Not literally, but imagine this. Imagine yourself exactly 1 year from now. 12 months have passed. 365 days. A full year of life. A full year of choices. A full year of opportunities. Now, imagine 2 different versions of yourself. The first version chose comfort. Every day he said, "I'll start tomorrow. I don't have enough time. I'm too busy. My English isn't good enough. I need more preparation." And tomorrow never came. Weeks passed, months passed, a year passed, and nothing changed. The same fears, the same excuses, the same frustration, the same dream. Still waiting, still postponed, still unfinished. Now imagine the second version. This version wasn't perfect, not even close. Some days he felt motivated, some days he didn't. Some days he practiced a lot, some days only a little. Some days he made mistakes. Many mistakes, but he kept going. 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there. One conversation, one podcast, one English video, one new phrase, one small step. Every day, nothing dramatic, nothing impressive, just consistency. Now look at those 2 people, 1 year later. Who has more confidence? Who speaks better? Who feels proud? Who has more opportunities? Who changed their life? The answer is obvious, and here's the most important part. The difference wasn't talent. The difference wasn't intelligence. The difference wasn't luck. The difference was daily action, small action, repeated action, consistent action. That's all. The future version of you is being created right now, not next year. Right now, by the decisions you make today. Every decision is a vote for the person you are becoming. When you practice English today, you're voting for confidence. When you avoid practice, you're voting for regret. When you take action despite fear, you're voting for growth. When you stay inside your comfort zone, you're voting for stagnation. The future is not something that suddenly appears. The future is something you build, moment by moment, choice by choice, day by day. Most people spend years dreaming. Very few spend years building. Dreaming is easy. Building is difficult. Dreaming requires imagination. Building requires discipline. Dreaming feels comfortable. Building feels uncomfortable. But dreams only become reality when someone is willing to build. And that's why your daily actions matter so much. Because one day, you'll meet your future self, not physically, but emotionally. One day you'll wake up and realize you became the person you once imagined, or you'll wake up and realize you never tried, and that realization is painful. Regret is heavy, much heavier than effort, much heavier than failure, much heavier than embarrassment. People think failure is scary. It's not. Regret is scary. Looking back and wondering what could have happened if you had simply started, if you had simply continued, if you had simply believed in yourself. That is painful. Far more painful than making mistakes. Far more painful than struggling. far more painful than feeling uncomfortable, because mistakes teach, struggle strengthens, discomfort develops growth, but regret gives nothing. That's why you must stop waiting. The perfect moment doesn't exist. The perfect plan doesn't exist. The perfect course doesn't exist. The perfect teacher doesn't exist. And the perfect version of you doesn't exist either. There is only today, this moment, this decision, this opportunity. Right now. And right now, you have a choice. You can continue doing what you've always done, or you can choose something different. You can choose growth. You can choose action. You can choose courage, not because you're fearless, but because your dreams matter more than your fear. That's what courage really is, not the absence of fear. Action despite fear. The strongest people aren't fearless. They simply move forward anyway. And you can do the same, because you are stronger than you think, more capable than you think, more prepared than you think. You don't need another year of waiting. You need another day of action. That's all. One day, then another, until eventually, the impossible becomes possible. The difficult becomes normal. The dream becomes reality. And one day, you'll look back at this version of yourself. The version that was afraid, the version that doubted, the version that struggled. And you'll feel grateful. Because that version didn't quit. That version kept going. That version chose courage over comfort, action over excuses, growth over fear. And because of that decision, everything changed. Not overnight, not instantly, but permanently. That's how transformation happens. Slowly, quietly, powerfully, one decision at a time, one day at a time, one sentence at a time, one conversation at a time, until the person you dreamed about becomes the person staring back at you in the mirror. And when that day comes, you'll understand something beautiful. You never needed permission. You never needed perfect grammar. You never needed perfect pronunciation. You never needed perfect confidence. You only needed to begin and keep going again and again and again until success had no choice but to follow. So today, make a decision. Not a decision to be perfect, not a decision to become fluent tomorrow. A decision to continue, a decision to trust yourself, a decision to show up, a decision to speak. Because your future self is watching, and your future self is hoping. That today is the day you finally stop waiting, the day you stop doubting, the day you stop translating, the day you stop hiding, the day you stop making excuses, the day you finally believe what has always been true. You're capable. You're ready. You can do this. Now take the first step and don't look back. Keep moving. Keep learning. Keep speaking. Keep growing. And never forget, the life you want is built by the actions you take today. Don't translate. Don't wait. Don't quit. Just speak and keep speaking. Because your story is only beginning. If you're still watching this video, I want you to leave a comment below and write, "I will speak English." Make a promise to yourself, not to be perfect, not to be fluent tomorrow, but to keep going, one day at a time. If this video inspired you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who is learning English. Remember, don't translate, just speak. See you in the next video.